Just Cause 4's new weather systems began as a single, small idea, adding visible wind currents to the world, allowing perennial hero Rico's parachute-to-wingsuit traversal to become even more useful. But according to game director Francesco Antolini, once that was added, the team then started thinking about how it could be pushed further. Could wind be added at ground level and affect NPCs? What about tip over cars? What if the wind was part of a sandstorm or a lightning storm to add more jeopardy? Naturally, this process eventually led to, what if there was a gigantic tornado that existed somewhere on the game's map at all times and could suck up almost every object it passed by? And so the team made, well, all of that. It's the most Just Cause-y game design anecdote I could imagine, and it perfectly sums up what Avalanche seems to be aiming to achieve in its fourth tilt at the series. Take something we already have, tweak it to make it better, and then go completely insane for no reason other than it's fun.
I can handle some bad weather.
It's more than bad weather, Rico.
Having played the full game for around 8 hours, that philosophy is visible everywhere. One of Just Cause 3's best upgrades was the ability to turn mines into rocket boosters, so Just Cause 4 gives you them almost immediately, lets you place 10 at once, and has you attach them with your grappling hook to allow for longer range mischief. Just Cause 2 worked around a metric of chaos, which was a neat way of incentivizing blowing almost everything up. Just Cause 4 brings that idea back, but now ties it more firmly to progression and unlocks, while increasing the number and variety of explosive objects to rupture, meaning almost any moment not spent trying to make something coloured red explode feel like a waste. This thinking doesn't just apply to Avalanche's games. Metal Gear Solid 5's Fulton balloons were hugely popular, so Just Cause 4 nabs them, turns them into a grapple tether too, and makes them somehow more ridiculous. I've had little purer fun this year than floating unsuspecting enemies to 100 feet and then popping the balloons. There are legitimately too many proactive changes to name. Every gun now has secondary fire, completing any region unlocks new supply drops, and you can supply drop more items at once than ever. Vehicles have new abilities, and destruction has been reworked to allow for objects to collapse, roll, and generally go in more interesting ways. Coming in from Just Cause 3, it's remarkable how comprehensive that sweep of fun-focused design tweaks has been.
Are you sure about this, Rico?
Too late to think about that now, amigo.
The only element at odds with all of this is the story, which somehow seems more serious than ever, with Rico heading to the home of his near-constant nemesis, the Black Hand organization, and kicking off a full-blown war. Thankfully, the plot is both easily ignorable and allows for that war to take center stage. Rico's no longer fighting alone. His one-time solo guerrilla efforts now help attract an army of freedom fighters to his cause, and overtaking the enormous map's tens of regions is a case of helping that army sweep across Salice, literally moving the front line of the war as you do. The upshot is, as you might expect by this point, brilliantly over the top. The new frontlines you create are represented by interminable battles across rivers, bridges, or whatever borders the two sides have chosen to fight across. Infantry and vehicles endlessly spawn to destroy each other, not only creating constant spectacle, but offering you the opportunity to take your pick of the equipment. It's a low bar, but it's actually Just Cause's most effective bit of storytelling so far. As the frontlines sweep across the world's new biomes, from farmland to desert to rainforest, there's a genuine sense that your actions have had an effect on the world. That move across the island nation's regions comes through familiar means. Generalized chaos helps you build the squad reserves currency you need to complete a region, but Just Cause 3's strikes, less formal missions revolving around destruction in an enemy outpost, return as a prerequisite of taking a region. Avalanche has strived to make these a little more varied than before, stirring escort missions, miniature puzzles, even stunt driving into the wash of explosions. Operations act as main story missions, bringing their own one-off absurdities with them, from grappling across a sky full of weather balloons to catch a blimp, to guiding the island's tornado through an enemy outpost. But in my experience, it's more or less expected that you'll forget any of this is going on for huge swathes of time because of the sheer possibility for idiocy. I left missions entirely because I couldn't resist booting a pedestrian off a moped, used a wind gun to turn a truck trailer into a baseball bat for passers-by, and made every bit of wildlife I saw float away, just because. The grappling hook, and its extra options when tethering objects together, is the ultimate admission from Avalanche that it realises that the attraction for many players will be in how much they can mess around. The ability to switch between 3 different tether loadouts, made up of any combination of retractors, boosters and airlifters, would easily be an improvement on the last game in and of itself, but it goes deeper than that. Every loadout can also be modded to a ludicrously minute level. Balloons can be fragile, invulnerable or explosive, and can float to a variety of different heights. Boosters can be altered to fly in the direction the camera's facing, while retractors' strengths can be changed, helping you do everything from gently turn over a flipped car to cannoning cargo helicopters into the ground. And yet, no matter how precise these granular options let you get with your plans, what you've planned for will often go completely wrong, which is somehow even better. As has been true of the entire series, Just Cause 4 likely won't suit those who don't approach the game with an inquisitive or just horrible mind. Rather than bring you emergent encounters, Solis is littered with convenient hubs for you to cause trouble, and that trouble will be as interesting as you make it. Walk into a base with an assault rifle and shoot some gas tanks, and you might get some pretty explosions at best. But fire retracting grappling hooks to bring down towers, use the wind gun to turn shipping containers into battering rams, and then escape on a makeshift rocket. Well, now we're getting somewhere. Avalanche's smartest move is in realizing that experimentation, not prescriptive objectives, is what players actually want, and every positive change I've seen has been in service of that. Just like turning simple wind simulation into an entire extreme weather system, Just Cause 4 wants you to push your ideas as far as they can go, just because you can. We've got so much more Just Cause 4 coming for you from IGN First this month, but for now, check out the 9 new features we've seen in our time with the game.